Welcome, people of the interwebs. It is the long-term ride review on the Panamerica. Thanks again for joining. This is Pete with BackDraft Bikes. Hope you're having yourself a wicked good day. I want to bring you back to the initial purchase of my Panamerica. And now here I am. I've got 1,500 miles on it. I've owned it for about a month. And I want to go through what I like and what I'm not so happy about with the bike. Now, again, this is subjective. You have to understand where I'm coming from. I have owned several adventure bikes of many European varieties, but mostly Triumph. So I do like the Triumph Tiger. And I had a Scrambler 1200, which is their big boy enduro bike they're making right at the moment. So I'm not a Harley guy. I've ridden Harleys a lot. I love the history that comes with a Harley, but it kind of ends there. The technology, the engine technology, the fact that they have like 0 features. Thank you, sir. That's kind of where my Harley love ends. And I always look at Harley and I'm like, Harley, you have to do something better. You're just building the same bike over and over. And so when I saw the Panamerica and Harley said, hey, you want to do a demo? I said, absolutely. And I fell in love right at the test drive. It was almost like one of those commercials, sign and drive type of deals. I enjoyed not only the way the bike handles, but the power, the braking, and the technology that it comes with, which frankly, again, this is all stuff Harley Davidson has never offered on a motorcycle in its entire history. So it's pretty exciting. Well, let me go through some of the things that I really liked about the bike, and I'll kind of work through them, and then after I'm done, I'll talk about a few of the things that I'm not so happy about, and some of them are major glitches and some of them are just minor annoyances. So I want you to kind of take them for what they're worth. First off, I can't say enough about this engine. The Revolution 1250 Max is unbelievable. It has a ton of power, and it's not like another Harley that you've ever had before. It's not the low-down torque that you're used to, and it certainly doesn't have the noise of a Harley Davidson. This thing sounds like a sewing machine at idle, and it really doesn't start to wake up until about 3,000 RPMs. Below 3,000, the bike doesn't even like to ride. It chugs and it lugs. So it's kind of an interesting riding experience, and I have driven quite a few Harleys to be able to say I know what I'm talking about here with the torque. This bike does not have it down low. You have to wake this bike up pretty hard before power comes on. So right about here, we're at 3,000. It has roll-on throttle response, but if I were to shift this to 6th gear and be a little bit below, I mean, I don't want to blow the motor up, but it doesn't have much power at all. It's kind of so you have to downshift. And honestly, it's kind of interesting. I don't use 6th gear all that much cruising around up here in Maine, northern New England, because the roads are twisty, and unless you're on a highway or you're really cruising out, you're not going to be using 6th gear to that ability because it's just too low. So that being said, the engine is amazing. Once you get it up above 3,000 RPMs, it almost feels as though the clutch is slipping when it gets up into the upper atmosphere of, 65, 7,000. The bike just takes off like a rocket ship, which is awesome. And I was trying to describe it to a guy the other day, and I said, it's kind of like a turbo. Like if you've ever driven a vehicle with a turbo or a bike with a turbo, you basically... Ooh, poopy. Nope, he doesn't like that. So anyways, It's kind of like driving a bike with a turbo. I don't know what you're doing, dude. It's kind of like you're driving a bike with a turbo. It has to spool up, but once it comes on pretty hard. Here, watch this. Holy mackerel. See what I'm saying? It's crazy. So I put it in 6th here and we'll cruise. This is kind of like a major highway up here. So you can see it's very comfortable at cruising speed too. So if you're out driving around and you want to do a long road trip and jump on the Great Slab, don't be nervous, because the bike handles exceptionally well in the environment of a long trip. It's super comfortable. So again, the engine, really cool, really amazing technology. When you think about Harley Davidson, the V-Rod series bikes didn't seem to really take, and that was their first rendition of a liquid-cooled bike. So to see them retool, reset, and build this new bike, and now it's even being offered in the brand new, just released Sportster S platform, really awesome. I can't wait to ride one of those. Now, I will mention a little thing about the engine that's kind of annoying. Again, it's a brand new bike, brand new production, brand new everything, so there's all types of nuances that are going to come out with it. I've been having some trouble with the starter and with hard starting, and so here's what it looks like. The dealer, I've had it in the dealer 3 times now. The first time when I picked it up, before I even took it, they changed the battery because they said the battery was dead. That's why it wasn't starting. But actually it wasn't. It was the same problem. The second time it's been in the dealer, they wanted to check the reflash, make sure that the software is updated and everything else, which it is. And so they said, okay. And then the third time now, which is actually where I'm going right now, is to replace the starter. So I don't know if that's going to change the problem. Maybe it will. A lot of people on the forums say, oh, it's on the compression stroke and that's why it's having a hard time starting. So just don't worry about it or whatever. But I mean, a brand new bike, you wouldn't expect it to do that. I've never had a bike that would do that. All right. So motor, tons of power, super fun in the high revs, really, really rock and rolls. It's awesome. Talk about the brakes. So the brakes on this bike are quite sophisticated. Again, for Harley Davidson, I don't know the technical aspects of their other bikes very well, but I would say that this braking system is unique to Harley Davidson. First off, the brakes are linked, which means you only have to use the front grip to engage both. Of course, it does have a rear brake pedal, and you can operate them independently, but they're linked by default. So that's kind of a neat feature I have not had on a bike before. The ABS on this bike is very high tech. The ABS is as sensitive as you want it to be, or it's not sensitive at all, or you just shut it completely off. Completely adjustable with a plethora of options for off-road riding. The ABS works really good though, because it's an active system that actively looks at what the bike lean angle is, where the throttle position is, how fast you're going, and then of course what mode you have the bike in. And we'll talk about modes in just a second as well. So ABS, I can't thank you enough. I think the off-road manner with this ABS system is actually very good. Again, I'm comparing it to some of the other adventure bikes I've had, like the Scrambler 1200, and the ABS system on this bike is phenomenal compared to that bike. That bike, the ABS would come on all the time off-road, even if it was in a more aggressive mode, it would still complain at you. This bike doesn't seem to do that. It seems to really be tuned in, really honed. The engineers at Harley, bravo to you. Did a good job on that. As far as brakes on the street and street manners go, this bike stops quick, and I am a huge fan of brakes. I like to be able to stop if a moose comes flying out in front of me. I want to be able to jam on the brakes, so the brakes are amazing. We got dual calipers in the front, dual rotors in the front. They're all Brembo all the way around, and I just can't say enough good things about them. That being said, let's talk about the suspension for a moment, because the suspension, oh my goodness, is another revolutionary new theory. I feel like Harley created an iPhone, and what I mean by that is they brought a bike to market that no one else has got technology on, and certainly Harley has never made before. There's just so much, it's just so intuitive and awesome that they were able to package everything in. So the suspension is one of the biggest things on this bike that's really amazing. Now, I have the special edition. It has the active ride height, and the active ride height ARH adds a few features to the bike. Now, it's a $1,000 factory option. When you get the special, most of the specials come with that automatically, and you get billed an extra grand. So before you think the active ride height is all about just what it does when you come up to a stop sign and stuff, don't think that. There's actually quite a bit more to it. What the ARH does is it turns your suspension, by the way, which is all Showa, front and back, into a artificial intelligence machine. So the suspension, instead of having, and this is the best that I can describe it based on my limited knowledge and what the guy at the demo day said, who was really smart, by the way. He basically, instead of having a mechanically adjusting, hydraulically adjustable valve or port in the suspensions, what it actually does is has an electronically controlled solenoid that opens and closes an orifice, and essentially the bike takes data from the ECMs, so your throttle sensor, your ride mode, your lean angle, all of these things, even your roll angle for when you're on the brakes hard, and it takes all of those pieces of data, puts them into a bucket, and continually adjusts the suspension. Folks, what that does is actually crazy ridiculous. So if I change this to sport mode, I now have a bike that behaves similar, not exactly the same, but very similar to a sport bike. I put this in sport mode, the suspension instantly is tough and very adaptive to sport handling, like on twisty roads with no bumps. Unbelievable. It's like I reminisce with my Speed Triple, jumping on that bike, very fast bike, very good handling, but terrible on any road that's not improved at all. You put it in road mode, which it's in right now, and the suspension just behaves like a really nice cruising bike, adventure touring bike would. It's plush, but there is some give if you hit bumps. So it's awesome. And then, just diving off a little bit about the modes again, you can add this into the off-road position where the suspension then acts like I'm riding a dirt bike. It's super soft. It handles just like a motocross bike, albeit it's a heavy, expensive motocross bike, and it adapts to the surroundings and allows you to do some pretty gnarly stuff with it. I do have a dirt video coming out soon, so I'll be showing you some of the edges of that mode of riding. And of course, then there's a rain mode, which I don't know if it does anything to the suspension, and then there's customizable modes, which allows you to completely dial in anything you want on the suspension. Now, I will tell you another thing about the suspension, the active ride height, which I mentioned right at the beginning. Similar to the way a city bus might come up to a stop and kneel down to let off passengers, this bike also has that technology. When it comes to a stop, within a half a second of stopping, the bike actually kneels down. So this bike is tall. When you're on it and you have the suspension ride height locked, meaning it's up in the full upright position, this bike is tall. I'm 6'4", and with it in the fully upright locked position, I'm not flat-footed. I'm actually a little bit off my heel, just a little bit. With the active ride height control on, I actually sit flat-footed and my knees are bent just a little bit. So you actually get quite a bit of suspension travel at a stop sign. Now, what's amazing about that? Why am I so excited? Well, think about this. Unless you're super tall, a lot of adventure bikes are out of your reach, and I mean that because you have to add a lot of different parts and pieces to them to make them run. Like for instance, Triumph makes a Tiger that is made for shorter people. You can't ride it if you're tall. It's super uncomfortable. And yet Harley puts suspension on this bike, and with the push of a button you have whatever ride height you want, which is, again, on a motorcycle. That's awesome. So Harley really, man, they did good with that. I'm proud of you, Harley. Again, very impressed with the suspension. The suspension on this bike, the motor's awesome, but a lot of bikes have power nowadays. The brakes are great, but a lot of bikes have good brakes. The suspension, nobody has this technology. So really, really good job, Harley. Really good job. I love it, especially up here, because we have roads like this where you just want to cruise and not get beaten to death. And then we have roads that you really want to rip and grip, and you want to click it on sport mode. And then you have the majority of the roads up here which are total trash, and you're going to destroy yourself in the bike, so you click it on you click the suspension on, you know, another setting like off-road or your custom mode, and it's awesome. So really, really good. The height adjustment on this bike is pretty good too. The seat from the factory has 2 adjustable positions which vary the height about 1 inch. And then the Harley Davidson sells a low seat and a high seat. So the factory seat, 6'4", in the high position is pretty good for me. I'm happy with the way it feels. It's not overly short. If I put the seat in the low position, I definitely feel it in my knees. I ordered the high seat, but everything is on back order, and that's one of my gripes that I'll mention right now. So I ordered some accessories for this when I got the bike, and everything is like back ordered for months. So I understand with the pandemic and this bike being released, but I would have thought Harley would have actually had some stock before they just dumped the bike out on market, because a lot of us, with the bike coming the way it is great, but not having bags. Nobody has bags for this bike. Nobody's manufacturing them. So I was forced, I know this is a first world country problem, but I was forced to use my dry bags, my soft luggage universal fit until I could get the hard bags in. So that was kind of annoying. Bags took a long time to come in, and most people are still waiting. They'll be waiting for a while to get them. So yeah, I also ordered a high boy seat. That's how I got on this tangent. And the high boy seat's back ordered till like October. So it's almost a 4-month back order from when I placed the order, which is kind of stupid. All right, now the comfort of this bike, riding down the road, comfort. I talk a lot about Harleys with vibrations and things like that. This bike does not have them. It has a little bit of a buzz on the foot pegs at highway speeds, but outside of that, there's nothing. The bike is super smooth to ride. Super smooth. Power delivery is right on. I mean, this bike does wheelie if you're not careful, but it does have wheelie control, again, thanks to the ECM and the suspension continually monitoring what's happening. It does a fine job at that. So the comfort on this bike is amazing. It's plush. The seat is very comfortable for 2-up riding. I've had my son on it, and he's a big boy like myself. He's 16 now, so he's a good example of will it work, and it does. So that's amazing. Final thing I think I was going to talk about on this too is the technology. So it's got a super awesome computer on it. The Livewire, I believe, is the only bike that has anything else like this right now. So the Livewire having this setup is pretty cool. We're pulling into the dealership now, so I can actually get off and show you a little bit about the bike. Okay, so I'm off the bike now, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a walkthrough on the technology. I apologize for the glare on the screen. It's a little sunny outside. So this screen has literally everything you could want, and it's completely touchscreen. So you can change anything on the fly, even with gloves on. with touchscreen. However, if you're driving, the touching ability of the screen actually stops. So just keep that in mind. Now I have this set up on the widget mode. Some people complain, they say, oh, the fonts are too small, you can't see anything. And I understand that. So you can make this look differently. You can take away all these things and just have one or two that are very big. But I don't find it that hard to see, so that's why I have it like this. Just to give you an overview, we have a mileage section, which gives you how much range you can drive on your fuel tank, your trip meter, and your odometer. You also have a running clock, which I'll mention just right now. There's an issue. The clock loses time. Harley Davidson is on that. They're trying to figure out a fix for it, and I'm sure that there'll be some sort of bulletin pushed out. But if you sync your phone with the computer and you run the Harley Davidson app, it will keep track, no problem. A little bit more on that when we talk about navigation. Of course, your traction control, ABS lights, and everything are all lit up because the bike's not running. Really nice feature here too. Again, you've got your coolant temperature, outside air temperature, battery voltage, a nice analog fuel gauge, Bluetooth connectivity, little info bar here where it tells you if your headset's on, your phone's on, what your battery is, what your signal strength is. I mean, it's just really cool stuff. Gear shift indicator tells you, what gear you're in. And then the flashing suspension tells me that my active ride height is enabled because I'm stopped and the bike has settled down a little bit. Just to go through a couple things, the buttons on this bike are super easy to use, okay? So I push the home button and it's going to bring me back to this screen, but if I push the page button and then I use these directional buttons, which these things change all types of functions. When you get a phone call, one button is to answer, one button is to hang up. If a warning light comes on, you can cancel or acknowledge. These buttons change based on what you're doing. So we come over here, we see the map. There's no map data because my phone's not connected. I'll just take a second to talk about the situation with the map. So it stinks, and this is a major flaw that I have to rag on Harley about. Most of these other things have been just like annoyances, but this one is bad. Apparently they are on this and they are going to fix it, but the navigation, why do you have to tie it to the Harley Davidson app? Why can't you give me like a third-party app? Waze, Google Maps, Apple Maps, any of these things. Don't tell me you can't do it, because lots of people do it all the time. A lot of manufacturers do it. Even Triumph has Google Maps integration with their Bluetooth on their TFT. So I don't understand why Harley forces you to go through their app, and then their app tracks what you're doing and puts data up to the mothership. I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with the fact that your navigation system is terrible on the phone. I have to set destinations on the phone. I have to do everything on the phone, and I can't like have active traffic monitoring. I cannot use the phone. Although they say you can use it offline, it does not work very well, because as soon as you lose connectivity, the map just times out, and then you're driving and you miss your turn. And it's happened so many times I don't even use the GPS anymore. So rant ending, but I actually put my RAM mount and I just use my cell phone because it's so much better. And I can use my push to talk button here. It'll activate Siri, and I can tell Siri to send me to whatever I want. Same thing with the robot variety phone, I should say. I just push it, it'll tell me where to go. I don't have to pull out my cell phone, type in a very cumbersome navigation system. I can use technology that's continually updated. And yeah, I can download Google Maps offline so easy. I do it all the time up here. So, okay, I'm gonna step away from the mic now as far as complaining about that. That's probably the biggest problem I have with anything on this bike, and it's just kind of annoying. Simple fix though, just buy a RAM mount. All right, I'm gonna push the home button again. I can go to music. The music is kind of nice. If my headset's connected, I have it connected through my Apple Music. The Bluetooth headset from my helmet goes to the bike, and the phone goes to the bike, so that the bike kind of acts as an intermediary and controls everything, which is nice because on this side, I actually have a super awesome directional pad, and the buttons are very nice. They're very engaging to play, pause, fast forward, rewind, turn up volume, turn down volume. And this is also nice when you're on the phone, you can't hear somebody, you can turn it up. So I love this feature. I've never had that on a bike. It's fantastic. A little gripe about the headsets. I have a Scala Rider and it continually drops in and out. And on the forums, even at the dealership, that they do talk about that a lot. They say, yes, we know it's a problem. Harley wants you to buy their Boom headset. I'm all set. I've already got a $300 headset in my helmet. I don't want to buy another headset just to, but it's kind of annoying when it doesn't connect. It drops in and out, in and out, in and out. Finally, it'll stick and it will stay on, but it's kind of annoying. You gotta do it 3 or 4 times every time you want to connect. Let's go to another one. So here is the bike page. I have really cool. I have PSIs on my pressures. And by the way, when you're driving, you can select this through the directional pad. It will let you do that. I've got my PSI rating, temperature rating on the battery again, and the battery. And then diagnostics wise, this is a cool feature, man. Harley's cool for doing this. I push this and it runs a self-check on everything, and it will tell me if there's any codes going. So you can see I do have a few codes that are popping up here. And actually, excuse me, I should take that back. Sorry, Harley. That is a code. See the 1? So I have U130-500H, and the H stands for historic. So it means the code was there and then it disappeared. Interestingly, I can also reset the faults, which I'm not going to do because I'm at the dealer and I want them to see this. But I have no other faults. So a lot of computers in this thing, huh? Only thing that makes me a little scary, right? About what happens when they break, right? You probably feel the same way. All right, we'll hit that one again. Again, in the customization side of things, there's so many things you can do with this. So I'll just go through these so you can see them. This is where we sync the app so that it keeps the time on, because it's not really accurate. Change units. Security pin's kind of cool. If your fob dies, you can tap in a security code using the directional pad, and you can get your bike going, which is pretty awesome. And you can also change the language if you're feeling a little adventuresome. Ride customization is unbelievable. So hold control. This has hill hold. So if you jam on the brakes extra hard, when you're at a stop, the brakes automatically lock for like 10 seconds, which is super cool. Bank lamp aiming. There is a bank sensor in this, and I'll just come over to the front of the bike. This light right here is adaptive and will actually change as you pitch. So it's kind of cool. Here's a picture of the way the headlights look too. They look pretty slick. I like the front of this bike a lot. The headlights are, by the way, while I'm also going down this rabbit hole, are super bright. I've ridden this at night a few times and I'm really impressed with how bright they are. That's why I haven't ordered the Daymaker accessory lights, because the standard headlights are just good enough for me. Ride modes. Let's go back here just for a second. You can go in here and you can turn on and off different ride modes, so that basically when you're riding, there is a button right here for ride modes, and you can cycle through these, let off the throttle, and they'll kick on. Rain, obviously, and you can tell it, I don't want to see that in my options, so just turn that right off, or you can turn it on. And then of course road mode, sport mode. I kind of talked about these already. Off-road plus and custom off-road plus. So off-road plus is a setup that basically makes this bike into a dirt bike, turns everything way down. It's really, really nice. Locks the ride height. But then look at this, 1, 2, and 3. I have 3 separate customizable settings, and this is on the specials. On the standard model, I don't think you can customize it as much. If I just to go in to show you what you can do on this, you can see the engine mapping is there. I can tell it how I want it to react. engine braking, how much I want the valve timing to change to slow my bike down, throttle response, max throttle because yes, traction control, I can tell it what model I want it to follow, anti-lock braking, I can tell it which model I want it to follow, suspension dampening, same thing, and then adaptive ride height, I can lock it, which is the way I have it set up. Now, I will tell you another thing about this bike, which is amazing, again, with the technology. Traction control button. There's a dedicated traction control button right here. As long as you're stopped, which I really wish you could activate that on the fly, but there's no bikes that I know of that you can do that with. Most of them all make you stop and start. But anyways, traction control, you hit that button, and it overrides whatever settings you have and just turns off traction control completely, which is super cool. Let's go back. Appearance, here's the appearance section, so I can change screen brightness, and I can customize the way the dashboard looks, which is super cool. Obviously my Bluetooth setting. Phone notifications, you can tell it to tell you if you get a text message or a phone call or not. And then software, you can actually do updates. Now, I'm interested to see if Harley will allow us to download an update, right? And then use a USB drive to update it. That would be cool. I think they're going to, but the bike is so new, we don't know. We don't know yet. And of course, here's your software version. So you can see if you're updated or not. So that's pretty much it with the computer system. It's awesome. I mean, Harley Davidson, bravo to your engineers to figure this out, to basically have a bike like this, not only with all this technology on it, but it all meshes together so perfectly. Again, I've had a lot of bikes, and like I think about my Scrambler, the last bike I had, the 1200 XE. That's a top-notch bike from Triumph, and their TFT was nice, and it was kind of going after some of the analog stuff, but they missed the mark on so many areas. And this bike right here is just amazing. So it's pretty cool when you think about it. A couple more things just about the controls while I've got you here up front. Heated hand grips. Kind of a gripe I have is, why did Harley put grips on like this that have a wire hanging down? This is looking aftermarket setup almost, and it's cable tied in the back here. I don't understand why didn't you just do like an integrated grip like a lot of the manufacturers do? I don't know. Another thing that's kind of annoying, but the engineers say they did this so that it doesn't break, is if you look at the bark buster here that they have, actually not, it's just clipped on. So I don't know how many times I do this and the guard is off. And they say they do that so that it doesn't break, but isn't that the point of bark busters, to keep your thing from breaking? They just clip back in, but I see this as kind of a stupid thing, but maybe they got a reason. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you know. Completely adjustable levers, on both sides on the clutch and the brakes. Kind of an interesting thing with Harley. I'm not sure why they did not go with a hydraulic clutch, but we've got yield cable clutch. I don't know why they did that. So that's kind of weird. From the factory, they come terribly adjusted, by the way. I had to play with mine quite a bit and finally got it good, and I'm happy with it now, but that was kind of a super annoyance when I first got the bike. The clutch was slipping when I got the bike, so I had to adjust it. Another thing about the controls, there's a plethora of buttons, again, using that word again here, but I hate the high beam switch. So when your hand's on it and you're riding and you go to get the brake, you flip the high beams on. That's how they go on and off. So I don't like that. I just wish that maybe you've got room right here. Why didn't we put a button there of some sort? I don't know. It's up here. I guess it's quick and easy, but you hit it a lot when you're wearing gloves. The other button I don't like at all is the starter button. It's way up here, and the kill switch, and I'll just demo this as well. If you're wearing gloves and you go to reach for the brake in like a bumpy panic situation, you turn it off. See, the kill switch, to turn off, you push forward. And so when you're driving, you You hit it. I've done that a few times. Just kind of a weird placement. Mirrors are really good on this bike. I do like the mirrors. They're not huge obstructions. They're nice and they're rugged. They don't vibrate at all going down the road, so that's kind of nice. Steering damper comes on the special. The steering damper is super nice. On the highway, you don't get the death wobble at all. From a tall bike, that's kind of a characteristic sometimes you will get at high speeds, and this bike does not have that at all. And that's an Öhlins one, by the way. It's very, very nice quality. Just going back over the bike again, it's pretty cool. Now, I have the bags on it now. As you can see, I have another video on my channel here about how to install them and a little bit of a review. I've had them on the bike now for a little while, and I will tell you, they're very nice. They have a lot of space. Again, just check out that other video if you want to a little bit more detail on them. But my general impression of these bags is they are rockers. They are awesome. They're rugged. If I set this bike down, it provides a ton of crash protection for the bike itself. The cases have a lot of bumpers and plastic on them already. So they're built for the trail. It does make your bike super wide though. As you can see, it is a wide beast now. So just keep that in mind. But the great thing about it is when you take the cases off, the profile stays very close to the same as it was, and the cases come off and on just by turning a lock. The only thing I don't like about it is that you have to lock and unlock the cases to open and close them. You cannot just unlatch them and open them. And what Harley's telling me is the reason why they do that is so that the latches don't pop off in an off-road situation. So I get it, but that's kind of annoying. And the other thing that's super annoying is it's an extra key that you have to carry on your stinking keychain. So it would have been nice if Harley Davidson would have allowed us to key this to fit the ignition key, but they didn't. The sport luggage does, the off-road luggage does not. So you can kind of see there is a ton of space in this one. I really do like these cases. I think this was a good purchase, and this is going to allow me to do some traveling now, which again, without luggage, it's hard. I was just relying on my soft bags before that are kind of universal fit, and they're not really that good. LED lights all the way around, really cool that Harley finally did that as well. Here's the thing that some people gripe about, the chain. They say, oh, Harley, why'd you do a chain? BMW does drive shafts, Triumph does drive shafts. Well, in an off-road setting, if you break a drive shaft in the middle of nowhere, you're up the creek without a paddle. And the other thing to think about when it comes to a chain is you can change the size of the sprocket. You can gear up and you can gear down. That is really amazing. Right now, this bike is geared more towards the road, but if I was a solid off-road rider, like all the time riding off-road, then I would want this bike to be, I would want to change the sprocket size. I would want it to be a little bit lower geared because it's pretty high geared right now. So thank you very much for thinking of us. The chain is a double O-ring chain. It's very good. And chain maintenance is not that hard. Once you buy the bike, you're going to have to adjust it after like 500 miles. But then you don't really need to adjust it too awful much. And I'll put a video on how to adjust it up on my channel here. But it isn't hard at all. You just need a big socket, a little bit of patience, and a measuring stick, and you'll be fine. Another thing about the bike that is kind of interesting, or really good I should say, is the center stand that comes on the special model. It still has the Jiffy stand, which is this little kickstand right here, and it comes down and out. It comes down and forward. So if you have never sat on one of these and deployed it, be careful the first couple times, because I actually dumped the demo bike trying to use the Jiffy stand, and it was kind of embarrassing. Once the Jiffy stand is down and locked in place, you can actually mount and dismount the bike with it on the stand without any worry, because it locks in place. That's one of Harley's, they've used this Jiffy stand for years. It's one of their signature items. I was a little skeptical at first, and then when the engineer showed me how actual rugged it is and what you can do, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I do like that as well. One other gripe I have is the front fender radiator situation. So I'll just show you, they don't ship this with a guard, and the guards are back ordered until like 2029 right now. So everything here is out in the open, ready to go. and this fender is super short. So this tire is going to sling anything and everything that you're driving on the roads right into the radiator, the voltage regulator, and yes, you guessed it, the battery is right there as well. That is not cool. I have ordered the skid plate for this that actually encloses all of this stuff, and I ordered the radiator guard, but again, back ordered, so I'm taking it easy until I get that as well. So overall impressions of this bike, again, after owning it for about a month, putting 1,500 miles on it, this bike is awesome. It's actually the best bike I've ever owned. I really, really like it. I thought I couldn't like a bike more than I liked my 1200 Scrambler, because the bike, the Scrambler was just amazing, but this bike blows it out of the water. I mean, in every aspect, comfort, power, technology, braking, and thank you, I finally got a Harley Davidson, so I get to join the legacy group as well. Will this bike keep living up to its name? I will let you know. As I drive it, I will post reviews. Again, thanks for your subscribing. Give me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Do you have one? Are you thinking about buying one? Tell me. I'd love to hear from you. As always, ride safe.